Welcome back to the Inner Circle, guys, for another Mortal Realms Monday painting video. This week I am painting up the Gryph hound statue from issue 71, and I'm going to paint the statue part of this in a green marble effect. So to get started here, I've mixed up two shades of green. The first on the right here is 7 parts Cabalite green, 15 parts contrast medium and 5 parts water. And the other one here is 5 parts 5 parts Sybarite green, 3 parts Abaddon black, 15 parts contrast medium and 5 parts water. And this is to get obviously two slightly different tones of green. So all I'm doing here is using a medium dry brush, but you can use sort of like a makeup brush, anything like that. And with this very thinned down paint, I'm sort of stippling it all over the model. First I'll go with the lighter green. We'll just call these light green and dark green for sake of the video. So first I'll go over with the light green and just get this all over the model. I don't mind if I miss the odd spot here and there, as what I'm going to do whilst this is still wet, I'm going to use the dark green and stipple in some areas to obviously be darker. What I'm trying to do here is get a bit of a mottled effect between the two shades. What will happen as this dries, you can see here some of it is settling into recesses, which obviously is going to darken them up. That's what we want. And the areas on the stone itself are staining green. And because you've got these two different greens that are very watery, very thin down, they're going to blend in very well together around the edges. Now the darker one is going to leave a little bit more of a darker splotch or darker patches, and around the edge of them it will fade in with that lighter green. So what I'll do is I'll do a layer of this all over, the dark green just being a few random areas, and then I'll let it dry for, it takes about 20 minutes with this, unless obviously you want to use a hairdryer. I don't have one, so I just leave it to dry for about 20 minutes. Once it's fully dry, you can then repeat the process, trying to keep the darker greens in a similar area, so that you're building up that darkness a little bit. The reason that I'd rather build it up rather than lay it down in one go is if you were to lay it down in one go, you would need a thicker paint, so less dilution, and you'll get more hard edges with that. With this wet blending, you'll get much softer edges around that green, and it's going to give the effect that we're looking for. So I'll get on with this, get a few layers down, let it dry, and then we can come back for the next step. Okay, so you can see here now we've got this very dark and light green patchy looking stone, and what I'm now using is 2 parts Fenrisian grey with 5 parts water to get it fairly thin, and a fine line brush. I think this is a 10-0, something like that. It's very, very fine, and all I'm doing is just gently dragging the brush across the statue to get a some lines going across and down the sides of the statue. Now I've chosen a direction that I want these lines to go in, so they're going to follow roughly that. Obviously they are going to go sort of up and down slightly, but they're going to follow that direction going across the body from sort of a back angle towards the front. And all I'm doing is making sure that the lines are nice and thin. Now with this being thinned down paint, they are going to fade and become fairly almost invisible, but you go over them a few times being careful. You can go a little bit thicker in places, thin in others. It's entirely up to you. What I would suggest is maybe looking at some reference on different marble patterns and see, you know, the kind that you like, and then just do something similar. I just went off the top of my head, roughly getting a marble type look to it, and like I say, I just go back over these lines a few times, thicken some up, maybe start them a little bit thicker and then come a little bit thinner down towards the sides. So obviously I'll let this dry once these lines are all on, and then come back for the next step. Okay, so next up I've got some Oth1 grey, and I've got this mixed a little bit thicker this time. This is about 2 parts grey to 3 parts water, and all I'm doing is going back over the lines that I did with the Fenrisian grey, trying to keep these ones a little thinner, and for the most part within the grey lines you can come out a little bit and vary the pattern slightly, but you do want these ones to remain fairly thin. Again, where you've got some thicker lines from the Fenrisian, you can go a little bit thicker with these lighter grey lines, or you can do split the lines a little bit within those thicker areas. But essentially you want to follow the same angle and pattern with the grey as you did with the Fenrisian. Okay, and for the final lines I'm taking a mix of 2 parts Abaddon black and 3 parts water again, to keep it relatively thin, and this time I'm sort of going outside of the grey lines that we did, but I will also sort of cross into them slightly, start within them. All I'm trying to do here is just add a little bit of darker context with the a bit more sort of crack type looking lines. You don't need as many of these, you don't want to overpower it with these darker lines, but just sort of follow a rough area. You can see there that I dabbed a little bit, it just went on a little bit too thick, so I just sort of dab it away, and then that just thins down or blends the line black a little bit. Now you'll notice the contrast medium here tends to leave a glossy finish on the marble, which is perfect. This is exactly what we want. So I'll go on, get a few of these lines on, and then we can take a look at the next step. Okay, so with all that dry, what I'm doing now is I've added just another drop of Sybarite green to the light green mix, just to thicken it up ever so slightly, so that I can get a bit more of a glaze consistency with it. And I'm glazing over the whole piece. Now what this is going to do is tint the grey lines to a green, which is going to give them some depth. It's going to push them down into the statue slightly. Once this glaze has dried, I will then go back to the Fenrisian grey mix and do the lines again. Let that dry, then go with the Oth1 grey and let that dry, and then a few little black lines just here and there. But all I'm doing is going over and over with the lines, so starting back at the beginning, and make sure that I follow a rough pattern. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, as we're trying to show different lines down at different depths within the stone, which is what the glaze does. It will push those lines back. And then the final layer, so I'll do this about 3 times, and then the final layer won't get a glaze, because I want that to be obviously where the stone has been cut away. You're not going to have a layer of stone over that, those white or grey lines. So the idea is that top layer, once you're happy with the depth that you've got, that last layer of lines that you put on, you won't glaze over the top. I also won't do the black lines with that. That will just be the Fenrisian grey and the Oth1 grey. Just in a few places. Like I say, keep trying to follow that similar pattern. You can break away from it slightly and expand it a bit more, and that will get you the depth. So once you've done that about, like I say, about 3 times or as many times as you like, the statue is essentially done. All that's left after that is to go in and paint the plinth or whatever it is that it's on, the tomb, in whatever colours you are going to do. For me, I'm just going to do them in the grey stone that we've done in previous videos. So rather than show you that, and to keep this video short, all I'm going to do is paint that off camera and we can come back and have a look at the finished product. Right, and there we have it guys, one completed green marble statue. So I hope you enjoyed the video guys. I know it was a nice short one today, but to be honest it's such a simple piece to do that it was never going to be really that long, was it? But if you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not yet subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button and helping the channel grow. To all of you who have recently subscribed, a big warm welcome to you. Welcome to the inner circle. Thank you ever so much for your support, and to those of you who are obviously subscribed recently or earlier. But yeah, there it is guys. So obviously at the time of this coming out, Imperium magazine has just released. I am subscribed to it, so I am waiting on my subscription orders to come through, which means that videos for the Imperium side of things is going to be about 2 to 3 weeks after the release in the shops. So obviously issue 2 releases next week from when you're seeing this video, or when this video is uploaded. So by the time I get mine, it will probably be around issue 3 coming out when I do issue 1. So we will be about 3 weeks behind, but hopefully that won't deter any of you guys from watching and enjoying the videos. Anyway, until next time guys, thank you ever so much for joining me. Take it easy and keep painting those minis.